Good afternoon, students. Holy moly, it feels like it's been about a few months since I last seen you. A lot has happened. So, of course, coronavirus, you're not able to be in class. I took the 4 days before spring break off. I was actually out east on a business trip, but here I am, and we're not able to be with each other. So, sometimes things happen, right? Well, this is not the first time I've been a teacher where the whole system just collapsed. And the very first episode of online teaching, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my experiences in Egypt. So the very first year I was in Egypt, I flew out there, and I gotten into the country because Egypt's predominantly a Muslim country. What was going on was Ramadan, and the Minister of Education really enjoyed the time he was having with his family, and decided to extend Ramadan 2 more weeks. So I the very first year I was in Egypt, I had 2 weeks off of vacation from the very first day. It was the weirdest experience. But that year was full of just unusual things. So fast forward to January 25th of that same school year. See, what happened was, in the country of Egypt, there was a military holiday. People in the military were largely celebrated, kind of like our Veterans Day here in America. Well, the police wanted a similar holiday. They wanted a holiday for the police, and the people of Egypt were like, "We're not having it. We don't want that." And actually, the big thing that was going on was, people began to protest, and they were protesting because of police brutality. You see, Egypt was controlled by the military for the last 30, 40 years. Hosni Mubarak had ruled the country through democratic elections for 29 years, and people began to feel that this shouldn't continue. Hosni Mubarak was a lieutenant colonel in the army, and when he came to power, he had the backing of the army, to say it very politely. Well, one of the ways he kind of kept power was he allowed the police force to detain people that kind of opposed his rule. And so a lot of normal Egyptians, they didn't like that. And so what started off as a gathering in Tahrir, or Freedom Square, people began to gather, and they were protesting against the police control. And the first thing they were saying was the head of the police department in all of Egypt needed to step down. And their police department would be kind of similar to kind of like more than just, it would be like the SWAT team, basically. So the police department, the head of the police department was like, "I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that." So more and more people began to protest in January, and as the news of the protests began to spread, more and more people showed up, and so it was the craziest thing. I'm living there in Egypt, and all of a sudden, it was a Friday night, January 25th. The internet slows way down. I mean, it just got really, really slow. And then the next day, the internet stops altogether. And the news that my students had given me a lot of news. They said, "Hey, there's this planned protest down in Freedom Square. Don't go. You're a foreigner. They'll think you're a spy or something. Don't go." And then everything just shut down. The police had this epic battle for the bridges going into Freedom Square, and the protesters were marching down the bridge, and the interesting thing is this: as they're marching, there's water cannons, and it was chaotic, and the square just started to swell. More and more and more people came to protest against the Minister of Interior. And now, as that's going on, suddenly things began to change. The protesters began to not just demand that the head of the police step down, they began to demand that Hosni Mubarak, the president of Egypt, also step down. So, fast forward. It's Saturday. The internet is off. Where I'm able to call my friends and say, what is going on? Turn on the TV. I turn on the TV and protest everything. And then the next day, the phones stopped working. You see, the government of Egypt had flipped off the internet, had flipped off the phones, and there was no way to talk or communicate to anybody. It was the craziest thing ever, and for an entire month, school was completely canceled. So this is not my first rodeo. So what did I do? Well, when I was in Egypt, basically the things that I did was I'd go up onto the roof of my building. I lived on the 9th floor. I'd go up to the roof and I'd watch protesters running down the bridge, and I could hear gunfire, and then protesters running back. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing, and it was an experience like none other.
Hey, you just missed it, but that was gunshots. Very loud. They're close by. Mom, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'm on the roof of my building, just kind of observing all that's going on. I feel pretty safe. So things have quieted down actually a little bit. Out by the police station, there's actually 2 tanks and more gunshots. It's pretty interesting out here. Climate is really interesting. Walking using the train tracks, you can't really see them, but you can hear them. People are retreating, presumably from the battle. They closed off the Corniche, which runs parallel to the Nile, and so some of the hotheads decided to use the train tracks, which the trains are no longer running. More gunshots. So they're using the train tracks to funnel people around. They're actually quite ingenious. This is crazy. It really is. But so far, this road in this section has been pretty safe because of these guys here. And on the other side, we have more guys. They were there. They're over there. That they're protecting this part of the Road 9.
So, but eventually, life got normal again. So, if you're at home and you're scared by all of this, or you're worried, you're not sure what's going to happen, the words of encouragement that I would say is that I've been here and I've done that. I also lived in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, the schools closed due to avian flu, and then the next year there was concern about swine flu. So this isn't my first rodeo, guys. So we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. Everything will be okay. It's just it's going to take some time. So wherever you are watching this, I want you to know that 2 things. Number 1, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about your families. I hope you're okay. I hope your families are okay. 2, I'm thinking, why in the world did nobody film the Greek skits? I came back on my spring break to watch some Greek skits that I left for you guys for the substitute teacher, and I don't have any videos. So if you filmed it, and if you actually did the skits, you need to send them to me. I'm missing you. I haven't seen y'all in about, it feels like it's about 2 months now, but it's been 10 days. Please, send me a shout out, send me an email, tell me you're okay. I need to hear. If not, I'm going to start calling up numbers and figuring out if you guys are doing okay. I'm going to be filming a little bit of this as we go on. I'm going to be giving you little bits and pieces and just kind of explaining different things, how we're going to progress. I'll talk about the Greek and Persian War probably in the next lesson. Specifically, I think that we might even really talk about a video. I believe this video exists in various links on YouTube, and I will set this up. It's just going to reinforce the information from the text. It's great. It's an awesome film, and it's going to give you the whole history of the conflict between Greece and Persia. And as we progress different lessons, we'll talk in part about what are the lasting legacies ancient Greece left us. These aren't going to be long videos. I don't plan to talk more than 10 minutes, but just to kind of give you a little bit of some semblance. And I really just, I hope that you guys are taking care of yourselves. I hope that you guys are not panicking. I hope that you have enough supplies, including toilet paper, right? I hope that you guys have enough toilet paper. Next time, I'm going to tell you, you got to stay for it. Next time, I'm going to tell you the ultimate Egyptian story, okay? The story I've been wanting to talk to you about.
Well, the tank is moving. Yeah, the tank was just moving a little bit. Okay, this tank's moving.
And it's, you're gonna love it. Okay, so on the next video, we'll hear my ultimate end all Egyptian stories. Until then, stay careful, be safe, take the necessary precautions, wash your hands very thoroughly, and relax. Everything will be okay. Love you guys.